Hi guys, Stanek here, and today's video is about how Last Epoch could be the future of the ARPG genre. Did you try Diablo 4 and think, is this really the future of ARPGs? This seemingly unfinished game without clear direction that costs 70 US dollars? Or perhaps you saw the writing on the wall before its release and decided to skip the heartbreak and the hole in your wallet. Have you tried Path of Exile and found that while the game is certainly more complete than Diablo 4, it's a little too involved? Requiring an immense amount of experience to craft your own build if you didn't feel like following an online guide? Then look no further, as the next contender in the ARPG space is here, Last Epoch. Last Epoch is an ARPG developed by 11th Hour Games that has been in early access since 2019, and they recently released their 1.0 version on February 21st. So what does Last Epoch have to offer compared to the other games in the space? Well, they must be doing something right, as I managed to sink over 300 hours into the game while it was still in early access, and the 1.0 release has only made the game better. To be the future of the genre, then 11th Hour Games needs to be getting some aspects of the game right. So let's dive into what aspects Last Epoch are currently crushing it at. The first thing that Last Epoch does extremely well is build diversity. There is great class and subclass selection with 5 different classes, each with 3 subclasses, giving you 15 total subclasses to choose from, each with unique builds and playstyles, meaning that you will find a playstyle that you like. Each class comes with 4 passive trees, including the base tree and an extra tree for each subclass. Picking your subclass does not actually lock you out of the passive trees of the other subclasses, but just limits how far you can progress through it. There are over 120 customizable skills in the game. Within each class and subclass, there are skills made available as you level up and put points into your passive trees. You can specialize in up to 5 of these skills at a time, unlocking unique perk trees that you can put points into as you level up the skills by gaining experience with the skill equipped. Besides your class and subclass selections, everything else is reversible. Don't like the skills you specialized in? Choose different ones. Made a mistake on your passive tree, or just felt like trying out a different node? Respec it. While there is a cost to changing your mind, you have to level up your new skills or spend gold to respec your passives, it isn't too costly and you can respec quite often without it feeling bad or like you wasted a bunch of time and resources. All of these options combined allows for great build diversity and a lot of viable builds. The next thing that 11th Hour Games have implemented well is the loot and crafting systems. Items in Last Epoch come with implicit stats based on the item type and then up to 4 affixes attached to the item, 2 prefixes and 2 suffixes, as well as a stat called Forging Potential which allows you to modify the item through crafting. Rare items drop with more attached affixes of a higher level and a higher forging potential range. Crafting allows the player to use forging potential to add, remove, and level up affixes, as well as reroll the implicit and affix values within their ranges. These two systems work well together as crafting increases the range of drops that are useful, as you can forge them to be closer to your ideal drop, without making item drops irrelevant. The closer you start to a god roll, the more likely you are able to get there through crafting, as with less ideal drops, you are likely to run out of forging potential before getting there. Next, I'm going to talk about one of the most important parts of an ARPG, the endgame content. And Last Epoch already sports some good endgame systems. The first endgame system you'll be introduced to in the game is the Monolith of Fate, usually called Monos by the community. Monoliths consist of a web of connected echoes to clear, each with guaranteed drops displayed beforehand, as well as enemy modifiers that will affect the enemies for a certain number of echoes. Monoliths give players a way to target farm gear, as each monolith has specific legendary or set items tied to it, as well as echo rewards allowing players to chase specific item types, such as one-handed swords, with the completion of such an echo rewarding a number of rare one-handed sword drops. The difficulty and rewards of monoliths can be pushed further by increasing the corruption of each timeline, allowing greater rewards but at the risk of making content much harder to complete. The next endgame system is the arena. The first type of arena is the Arena of Champions, which has 4 tiers of difficulty available. After choosing which tier to play, you are placed in an arena that spawns waves of enemies with rewards after every 5 waves. After 40 waves, the arena boss will spawn. Killing the boss will complete that tier of arena, unlocking the next more difficult tier. The second type of arena is the Endless Arena, which is exactly what it sounds like. Endless waves until you cannot put up a fight any longer, with rewards offered every 5 waves. Entry to the arena requires arena keys, which drop as monolith rewards or from the arena itself. The final endgame system is the dungeons. While the previous two systems are more randomly generated, the dungeons are a more curated experience, with dungeon-specific mechanics needed to progress and a specific boss fight at the end. Dungeons, like the Champion Arena, have 4 tiers of difficulty. However, higher tiers are unlocked by player level, not completion of previous tiers. There are 3 dungeons currently available in Last Epoch. The Lightless Arbor, where you are granted access to a vault at the end that can be stacked with more loot based on gold spent, giving players a gold sink. The Soulfire Bastion that allows players to gamble for items with souls collected throughout the dungeon. And finally, the Temporal Sanctum, which allows the fusion of exalted and unique items into powerful legendary items. Each dungeon requires a key to enter, which again are dropped from monoliths. Now, endgame systems are great, but they need to be supported by the leveling experience. Last Epoch has a good leveling experience with levels gained quite quickly throughout the story mode, giving you a good sense of progression that feels fast enough while still giving you time to try out your skills and figure out your build. While the story itself isn't award winning by any means, it isn't bad and is either on par or better than the story in most other RPGs, barring Diablo, as that seems to be the only thing they actually put time into. Now, it isn't all sunshine and rainbows for Last Epoch. It does have some issues. Currently, it just isn't on the same level of visuals as something like Diablo 4 or what we have seen of Path of Exile 2. That isn't to say that the game looks bad, and there are visual upgrades in most major patches, but currently it's just a little lackluster. The other main issue, which partially stems from these visuals, is that the combat doesn't have the same visceral impact that a game like Path of Exile does, where taking down enemies feels really good. The 1.0 release has made significant improvements in this department, but it's still something that 11th Hour Games needs to work on to compete with Path of Exile and cement Last Epoch as the ARPG to play. Despite the issues I listed, Last Epoch is in a really good spot right now, and the dev team is active in their Reddit and Discord, taking in community feedback and making a game that they themselves would want to play. After all, the dev team are ARPG enthusiasts. So, while Path of Exile is still going strong, and Path of Exile 2 looks like it's going to be amazing, there is space in the scene left by Diablo 4 not hitting the mark. Space perhaps for a game much easier to get into than Path of Exile, but still with deep and diverse build crafting and great endgame systems with good replayability. Last Epoch is set to be a great competitor for Path of Exile 2, and I can't wait to see what the dev team has in store for us next. The 1.0 patch is live now, and it's never been a better time to jump in and give the game a go.